For my review of the 4-part finale to the first season of Transformers Prime, I've decided that I want to try out a new review format. I don't know if this is going to stick, but I still want to give it a shot. You can call it a cop-out if you want. It is kind of, technically, I guess, but I am trying to work out my schedule so that I can start uploading Wednesday videos again, and maybe more videos on the weekends as well. And so what I'm going to do with this review of what is effectively a 4-part movie with no really good stopping points between them is I'm going to record my entire review and commentary all at once, and then I'm just going to cut it in half. I'm going to edit the first half into one video and the second half into another video, and that way I'll be able to save some time by putting off the second half of all of that editing. And now, of course, I could just review each of these 4 episodes separately, or I could just review the first 2 and then review the other 2 after in an entirely separate review. But the reason I don't want to do that is because since the first 2 episodes don't come to any kind of conclusion, there's not really anything to wrap up at the end of that video. There's going to be way more substance in the second of those 2 videos than in the first. If I do it this way, though, even though part 1 is going to be mostly commentary and summation, and even though part 2 is going to be mostly the bulk of the criticisms of the episodes, at the very least, both videos should have a roughly equal amount of content. That said, I really hope you guys let me know what you think of this review format in the comment section down below, though I would prefer that you wait until part 2 comes out next week so that you will have had a chance to take all of it in. Because if this format works out, I might use it for other stuff down the line and do more comprehensive reviews of, like, Netflix series or something. That said, let's talk about the 4 episodes which constitute One Shall Fall and One Shall Rise. The first of the 4 episodes opens on a prophecy. The Autobots are discussing this prophecy, which was apparently passed down from the ancient Transformers which founded Cybertron, the same ones that stored all that information on the storage cylinder that affected Bulkhead a few episodes ago. And I will freely admit, I'm not a big fan of prophecies, especially not in this context, but I'll talk about that in a little while. So I didn't really pay that much attention to it. It's something about darkness rising and weak perishing in a planetary alignment, but that it's also kind of hinted that the planetary alignment goes across like the entire galaxy or something. I don't know. It's really stupid. Like, spoiler alert, I think this aspect of these 4 episodes is really stupid. Because suddenly everyone has known about this prophecy, including Megatron, and it turns out that all of the actions he's been taking up to this point have been in pursuit of becoming the rising darkness in the prophecy. It comes out of nowhere, and while I guess it kind of explains why he's seemed pretty okay with some of the setbacks he's had over this last season, it's still really weird that we never got any indication prior to this that this is what his motivation was. And if it's because of the prophecy, because he thinks that he is prophesied to be this rising darkness, that he's been okay with some of the setbacks he's faced recently, then why does he suddenly get so desperate when he realizes that the planetary alignment is upon him? If he thinks that he is fulfilling a prophecy, shouldn't he be excited? Shouldn't he think that that means that something good is going to happen to him that allows him to fulfill the prophecy fully? It just feels like bad writing. It feels like they shoved this prophecy in to make the episode seem weightier than it otherwise would have. And honestly, I don't think the prophecy is even that important. If they had mentioned it, if they had built up to it, it would be one thing, but they didn't. They didn't mention it before this episode. It comes right out of nowhere. So I don't really see why it needed to be here. It doesn't feel like it actually matters. What does matter, though, is that Megatron wants to move his plans for conquest over the Earth forward, which means he needs more dark energon. Because remember, Megatron's in sort of a Reed Repulsa kind of situation. He wants to conquer the Earth and then use it as sort of a new staging ground from which he can launch a conquest of all of known space. As much of known space as he can possibly reach. And he, of course, thinks that he needs to head back out into space to find more dark energon, since he found the sliver which is now merged with his spark out in space. And it turns out that in the background, he's been sending his Decepticons on covert operations to gather human-made materials that he needs to complete a new space bridge. But now, with the prophecy on the horizon, he feels that he's pressed for time, so he throws caution to the wind and attacks openly, drawing the attention of Agent Fowler, who brings the Autobots in to oppose him, which leads to a very unfortunate coincidence where they call in Bumblebee, who happens to have Raph with him, and he just happens to be driving along roughly the same path that Megatron's using to get where he's going, and Megatron attacks, and Raph is exposed to a blast of dark energon, and he's not doing so well. And the need to get Raph back to base so that he can be treated leads to the premature end of the skirmish between the Autobots and the Decepticons over this last component for the space bridge. And it looks like the Autobots are just gonna retreat again and let the Decepticons gain a little more ground. But this time, finally, Optimus makes a different choice. He has learned from recent episodes where he was criticized heavily for letting Megatron get this far in the first place. And so he pursues Megatron back to the Nemesis with the intention of destroying him, of finally ending this. So while they call in Jack's mom to help Ratchet treat Raph because Ratchet realizes that he's never even bothered to learn how humans work, Optimus makes it clear that he intends to fight Megatron, and so Megatron fights him one-on-one. He goes so far as to order the other Decepticons not to touch Optimus, to leave Optimus for him. And it just so happens that they end up fighting at the base of a volcano that Megatron has been seeing in visions. And then it turns out that that volcano is not spewing magma, but dark energon. That there's dark energon at the core of our planet, and it's being expelled by this volcano, which has only become active because of the gravitational pull of the planets that are in alignment with each other, which is nonsense. That's nonsense. Their gravity isn't going to get any stronger just because they're all lined up with one another. Still, this exposure to dark energon weakens Optimus and allows Megatron to get the upper hand, and it looks like he is going to finish Optimus off. But heading into the second of the 4 episodes, well, Ratchet has the brilliant idea to use regular energon to neutralize the dark energon affecting Raph. The other Autobots disobey orders and go help Optimus. They go in, drive Megatron back, and pull him out of the area. Megatron is still alive. He is allowed to now do whatever he wants with the dark energon coming out of the Earth, but at least Optimus is safe. For now. All of this does beg the question, though, why dark energon is spewing from the Earth, of all places. It just doesn't make any logical sense. Like, sure, it makes sense that there would be regular energon here, because the warring factions in the Great War stored it on other planets other than Cybertron, so they'd be able to access it without their enemies knowing. But dark energon is something that neither side had access to at all before Megatron found that sliver that's inside of him now. No one could have brought it here, so why is it here, and why does it seem like the Earth is the source of it? Well, it turns out it's because the Earth is Unicron. Unicron has, of course, been mentioned offhandedly in the show before. The colloquial term among Transformers for dark energon is the blood of Unicron, and they are able to listen for Unicron's heartbeat at the center of the Earth and confirm he's there. This leads them to believe that the minerals in the Earth that humans mine are extensions of his metal body, and that life on Earth is an extension of his life force. And I have a lot to say about those absolutely absurd statements in a little while, but I'm not going to dwell on that here because I don't want to get super negative, at least not yet. This does mean, though, that Unicron is, at least in some way or another, the source of human life, and now, again, seemingly because of the planetary alignment, he's come out of stasis and is waking up. And he is going to destroy the Earth if he keeps going about it the way he's been going about it. So, after he talks to Megatron in the smoke from the volcano, which is a really cool scene, like, I have no idea how he did it, but it's a really cool scene, and rejects Megatron as effectively a disciple because he doesn't want to share his power with anybody, Optimus seeks out an audience with him as well. Unicron can sense that Optimus is here because, as we learn in these episodes, Optimus, being a Prime, is the, I guess, successor would be the right word, of Primus, Unicron's polar opposite. Primus and Unicron are basically primordial, godlike beings to Transformers. Primus is the one who created the original Primes, and therefore all Cybertronians as we understand them and Unicron was his enemy, a bringer of chaos to oppose Primus's order. And it was the collective power of the first 13 primes which originally knocked Unicron into stasis, seemingly killing him, but not really, apparently. So Unicron, of course, wants Optimus dead. He has a power which could be a threat to Unicron's power. And he doesn't listen when Optimus tries to appeal to his better nature, for some reason, and convince him that it would be best not to emerge from the Earth, because he'd be effectively killing his children, that being humanity. He doesn't care. He doesn't care at all. And then he starts actually moving the Earth to create avatars of himself to fight Optimus. This brings us into, I think, the weakest part of this 4-part arc. There's a whole bunch of filler crammed here in the middle that makes me think that they probably didn't need 4 full episodes to tell this story. Optimus ends up fighting a whole bunch of small Unicron avatars that are still bigger than him, but a lot smaller than Unicron himself. He can't beat them alone, so once again, the other Autobots disobey orders and come to save him, but then Unicron makes a really big Unicron avatar that's still not as big as Unicron himself, and then Megatron shows up to help Optimus out of nowhere. And while all this is going on, Jack's mom tries to take the kids away because she's finally fed up with how much danger they're in, but then she gets put in danger again and has to be rescued and realizes that she should trust the Autobots, and it's time filler. That's all it is. It's interesting looking time filler, but it's time filler nonetheless. Everyone ends up right back where they started, or they end up where they're logically heading in way more time than it necessarily needed to take them to get there. But this does lead to a temporary alliance between Optimus and Megatron. Megatron has a connection with Unicron. He can read some of Unicron's thoughts, and he can sense where Unicron's spark is underground, i.e. he can direct their ground bridge to Unicron's interior and take Optimus there. Meanwhile, Optimus carries within the cavity in his chest the Matrix of Leadership, a vessel for the combined wisdom, knowledge, and power of the Primes. If he directs that power at Unicron's spark, he would effectively recreate the conditions that put Unicron in stasis lock to begin with. So they have to team up. Optimus takes his Autobots, along with Megatron, into Unicron, ending episode 3 of 4 with a really creepy, really cool shot of Unicron turning one of his massive eyes inward to look at them. And while, obviously, I have had some problems with the story up to this point, these episodes are still doing pretty well. They're still pretty exciting and pretty interesting, and I'm having fun watching them.